For 2 years, I lived the life of careless sex and debauchery that comes with being a man whore. I would make passes at anything with a pulse, going out of my way to weasel into my mark's heart in order to weasel into their pants. I made it a habit never to sleep with the same girl twice, and I kept an ongoing tally of how many women I could hook up with in a week. I wasn't always like this. Going into my first year of high school, I was the poster child for monogamous relationships. I looked down on people who threw their bodies crotch first at anything that moved, and spoke my mind against it publicly on numerous occasions. As a freshman, I dated a girl named Sarah for about a year before she broke my heart over summer break. I was devastated well into my sophomore year and spent most of my time moping around in a constant state of self-pity. But I snapped out of it when I met Joy. I knew she was something special from the moment I took her out on our first date, and when we had our first kiss, I was certain that she was the one I wanted to spend my life with. Unfortunately, she did not feel the same. We dated for 2 years before I discovered that she was cheating on me with someone from her church youth group. I was destroyed once more, and vowed then and there that if broken hearts were destined to happen in relationships, I would be the one breaking them. Starting my senior year, I was a sexual force to be reckoned with. Girls who were slighted by me would warn their friends, but I would inevitably charm my way into the heart of any girl I chose before shattering it to bits. The gratification was indescribable. Each kill was a rush. I was a monster. This trend carried into my first year of college, though my notoriety decreased slightly. There were plenty of frat boys playing the same game I was. Nevertheless, I rebuilt my reputation from scratch. I was jokingly given the name Virgin Slayer in some circles, and it stuck. I porked my way through my entire freshman year, my body count bordering on some 200 women up until just before finals week. That's when I met Danielle. The moment I met Danielle, I knew that I would never want any other girl again. She was absolutely stunning, with short brown hair, cute pixie style, accented by the most gorgeous pair of blue eyes I have ever seen. When she laughed, the corners of those eyes would crinkle up and my heart would melt. I decided then and there to introduce myself. Unfortunately, my reputation preceded me. She recognized me immediately and told me to fuck off. Despite this, I was determined to prove myself worthy. I went out of my way to show her that I truly cared for her. I bought her flowers, I wrote songs and poetry, and publicly swore that I would cast aside my luxurious life if she would be mine. Reluctant dates turned into midnight rendezvous. Midnight rendezvous turned into dinner dates with her parents, and somewhere along the way, we fell in love. I was head over heels for Danielle, and one look into those beautiful blue eyes told me that she felt the same for me. One woman turned my entire life upside down in an instant, and I was grateful for it every day. I was never happier than when I was with Danielle. For our sophomore year, we decided to give living together a shot. After saving up some summer wages and dipping into savings, we managed to secure ourselves a cozy little apartment near campus. Days were spent living the busy lives of college students, going from classes in the mornings to work in the afternoons to afford rent. Nights, however, were made up for it. We would spend evenings together on the couch with a movie on in the background, but ultimately, it would devolve into giggling and kissing, and me just looking at her, drinking in her beautiful face, transfixed by the blue eyes that had caused me to fall in love with her. Late into our second semester, Danielle had to leave to visit the next state over. According to a phone call from her parents, her grandmother that lived there was in very poor health and was fading fast, and they wanted her to be there for her in her final days. Danielle was distraught and spent several hours sobbing into my shoulder as I ran my hands through her hair, assuring her that it would be okay. I helped her pack her bag for her trip and drove her to the bus stop to see her off. I was sad to see her go, but I understood that family had to come first. I managed to keep myself distracted for the first part of the day with school and work, but when night fell, I realized just how lonely the apartment was without Danielle. I sat on the couch, watching a DVD but not really paying attention to it, thinking of how much I missed the love of my life. She had texted me an hour or so earlier to tell me that she was headed into an area with terrible reception and that communications would be limited for a while. I texted back that I understood and added on an "I love you" with a question mark, prompting a response, but receiving none. Completely out of distractions, I opened my laptop to check my Facebook when my phone vibrated. 2 short bursts, a text message. I reached over eagerly, hoping for word from Danielle, but the caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. The text was 4 words long. "Do you remember Sydney?" I scratched my neck and racked my brain. Sydney. The name didn't really ring any bells. I was about to close my phone when it vibrated again in my hand. The same number had sent another message. "Do you remember Nisha?" There was a name I recognized. Nisha was a Russian exchange student from my senior year of high school, one of the many conquests from my previous life. I typed her name into Facebook and pulled up her profile. There were numerous wall posts with different variations of "Pray for Nisha" or "I hope they find her soon." Apparently, she had gone on a camping trip and had been missing ever since. As I scrolled through her page, my phone buzzed again. I unlocked the screen. "Do you remember Tasha?" I fiddled with my lip, thinking, the name sounded familiar. After a little thought, I placed it as one of the sorority girls I associated with in my freshman year of college. Dated her for a week to gain her trust, nailed her, never called her again. I pulled up her Facebook page. Much to my surprise, it was very similar to Nisha's. Tasha had gotten tickets through a radio contest for a cruise, but somehow got lost between her home and the ship. There was apparently no record of her even signing in for the boat ride. My heart began to beat faster in my chest. This was too weird to be simple coincidence. My phone buzzed once more. "Do you remember Lydia?" I didn't bother to try to remember. I typed the name into my Facebook search bar and clicked the first result. Another college mark, missing for a month. My heart raced. My phone buzzed again and kept buzzing through the night. "Do you remember Devin? Disappeared camping." "Do you remember Erica? Left for the beach for the weekend. Never came home." "Do you remember Raven? Cheyenne? Monica?" Name after name appeared in my phone's inbox, and name after name turned up missing on Facebook. Everyone I had ever been involved with was gone, and had been gone for weeks. I had to know what was going on. I opened my computer's recent search history and cross-referenced the names I had looked up with the girls in my contacts, barring my mother, aunt, and Danielle. The only name that was left over was Erin Morgan. I put my shaking hands to my face to gather my thoughts. Erin. It suddenly clicked. Erin was the girl from the school library. Small girl, very bookish, with thick glasses and a hair-triggered temper. I pursued her for months until she finally relented and slept with me. Then I dropped her like a ton of bricks. After accidentally running into her on campus one afternoon, I made it a point to steer clear of her. The look she gave me that day was pure venom. Typically, the girls I played would take it in stride and count it as a loss, but if looks could kill, I would have been dead in an instant. Her eyes had seethed pure, unadulterated hatred. I shook my head. Now wasn't the time to get lost in my thoughts. Clearly Erin Morgan was behind whatever was going on here. She had gotten a new phone, relocated, and started picking off my ex-lovers. I had to call the cops. Would they even believe me? It didn't matter. Something needed to be done. I picked up my phone and was about to make the call when it buzzed again. A picture mail. I opened it. Do you remember Danielle? My heart stopped, terrified of what I might see. I opened the phone attachment. Laying on the ground in a pool of blood was the most gorgeous pair of blue eyes I had ever seen.
Number 2.
When I moved away to college, things got really shitty for me. You see, I'm a really quiet person and I find it really hard to make friends with people. For the most part, I just don't see the point. I don't really like anyone I've ever met. I don't know. And when I moved there, they just didn't happen. They didn't go well for me. Things were just terrible. They were at an all-time low, and college was really hard, and I was struggling to pay rent. I didn't know what I was going to do. One night, I decided I was going to kill myself. I walked to a nearby bridge with the intent of jumping off. When I got there, it was really dark. There were only a few lights around, barely lighting up the area around me. I thought back on my life, and I realized I had nothing to live for. I didn't know what I was doing, barely even cared about my major in college, my grades were slipping, I had no friends, my family didn't care about me. I closed my eyes as I anticipated to jump off. I wasn't sure if I was going to do it. I leaned forward more and more with each passing second. I was going to do it. That was when I heard a woman's voice screaming at me to stop from behind me. Honestly, it kind of startled me and I fell down and it was kind of awkward. She came over to talk and I could tell she pitied me. She could see easily that I really wasn't anything special. But regardless, we became friends. And as things went on, we got closer and closer. Eventually, it got to the point where we were really close. Believe it or not, befriending this one girl actually helped me to change my life. I completely did a 180, and within 2 years, I had all A's. I had quite a few friends, and I made her my girlfriend. Things could not have gotten better. And that was what our entire relationship was based off of. Things were amazing, and they continued to be amazing for 4 or 5 years. We ended up getting a small house in the country. We both got high-paying jobs, and things could not have gotten better. Sometimes I think back to when my life almost ended that night, imagining what would have happened if she wasn't there. I'd probably be dead. Now, there are a couple reasons, some of which are my fault, but the main reason was that she wasn't herself anymore. She used to be so happy and positive, and she always helped me to become a better person, but now she was this shell of a human being, and she wouldn't talk to me, she wouldn't tell me what was wrong. I don't know what happened to her, but something changed. That was when weird things started to happen, and I keep thinking back to how they all happened and realize I should have seen it coming, but I don't think anyone wanted to see it coming. I started finding dead animals around our property. Sometimes they would be horribly mutilated, and I didn't know what to think. A couple separate occasions I asked her about it, but she always seemed to brush it off. But one day, there was a dead dog, horribly mutilated, that was right in our front porch. When I asked her about it, she said she didn't notice it. Now, there was no way you didn't see this thing. It was right on the front porch, and she left for work that day. There was no fucking way she didn't see that thing. That was when I knew she was hiding something from me. I don't know what exactly she did, but I started to get suspicious that she was a serial killer or something. That's what serial killers do, right? They torture animals. I know it was weak of me, but I just bought her shitty excuse and I went on with my life. I know, looking back, I should have left her then and there, or called the police, or had her mentally evaluated or something, but I just didn't. By this time, we had been emotionally separated for 3 years. We still lived together, and occasionally we partook in romance, but it really wasn't anything special, and I know she felt the same way. It was around this time that I got friendly with a girl from a local bar. We became friends, and one thing led to another. I started pouring my heart out, and we ended up having sex, and honestly, it felt so good. It felt so good to feel like I was actually doing it with a real person and not some fucking robot. I did still feel guilty though. I betrayed my wife. I shouldn't have done that. If I really felt that disappointed with my wife, I should have just left her. But I stayed for all the wrong reasons. The next time I saw her, she could tell that I was feeling guilty, and surprisingly enough, she didn't seem to care. I confessed to her that I had cheated on her with a girl, and I said that it would never happen again, and that we needed to work on our marriage. She seemed fine, but looking back, she was anything but fine. We made an appointment to see a marriage counselor, and everything seemed to be fine after that. That was until one day I was watching the news, and I saw a woman who was brutally murdered, horribly disfigured. Everything about her body was burnt. It was the worst thing I had ever seen in my life. She was so disfigured and fucked up, and it was honestly disgusting. But I recognized her face. It was the girl from the bar. That was when I knew I had to get out. I started seeing more and more dead animals around the property, and one day I came home from work to see a dead bird, horribly cut up and disfigured, and I just turned around and I left. I went to my parents' house and I called my wife to let her know that I was leaving her and I was never coming back. That was probably the bravest thing I had ever done in my life. She sounded really weird on the phone. Not in the sense that she overreacted or anything. She barely reacted at all. Eventually, I found a small apartment in a nice secluded area, and I tried getting on with my life. A couple days ago, I noticed something. I noticed that there were dead animals showing up around where I lived. I knew it was her. I knew she was there. I'm really fucking scared, and I don't know what I'm gonna do next.